فصل في الحث على طلب العلم والعمل والتعليم واطلب علوم الدين وارقى إلى اليقين فالعلم قوت القلب فيه رضاء الرب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to lesson 6 from the book of fasting, from the book called Safinah an-Naja, inshallah. In this lesson we will learn about the nullifiers of fasting. So nullifiers of fasting, there are two types. One, things that nullify, things that are zahir, obvious, visible, and the other one is batin, which is immaterial. Immaterial things that nullifies the fasting. It actually does not nullify the fasting itself, but nullifies the reward of fasting. These include things like lying, backbiting, or slander, false witness, and similar. These things, or even looking with shahwa, with desire, looking at, for example, a woman with desire, this nullifies the reward of fasting, but it does not nullify the fasting itself. Today, inshallah, we are going to talk things that are mentioned in this book, especially which are the things that are obvious, zahir. So the author says in this section, he says fasting is nullified with apostasy, biridda, wa haydin, menstruation, wa nifasin, postnatal bleeding, wa jununin, or wa wilada, childbirth, wa jununin, insanity, walau lahza, even for a moment, wa bi igma'in, unconsciousness, wa sukrin, and intoxication, ta'adda bihima, intentionally, in amma jami' an-nahar, if they last for the entire day. So these are 7 nullifiers that are mentioned by the author. The first one is ridda, wal-iyadhu billah. Ridda, which means apostasy, to leave Islam. A person who is already Muslim before and now he left Islam, and this nullifies all acts of worship except for wudu in madhab Shafi'i. In other madhahib, in other ulama's opinion, is that even wudu, it nullifies the wudu, ridda, apostasy. Apostasy, a person who already saw the light and wants to go back to darkness. If a person who is a disbeliever from the beginning, a kafir, then that person have not seen the light. That person has been in the dark. That person might be blocked, might not be allowed from looking into the light, or might fear from looking into the light, from looking into Islam, by his family, friend status. But otherwise, a person who already a Muslim, who already have an opportunity to look at the light, but he refuses. So, may Allah protect us from apostasy and make us steadfast in this deen, in this religion. The second nullifier, hayd, menstruation, which is the blood that we know that happens to women, period blood, which happens to women usually, commonly, once a month. And the third nullifier is nifas, postnatal bleeding, the blood that comes out after birth. Wa wilada, childbirth itself. And the fifth nullifier is junun, insanity. A person becomes crazy. Walau lahza, even for a moment. This sentence even for a moment, refers to all the 5 nullifiers that we have mentioned earlier, beginning from apostasy. So if a person became an apostate, goes out from Islam, even for just a moment during the day of Ramadan, his fasting becomes nullified. Same thing if a woman gets her period, even for just a moment in Ramadan, then it nullifies her fasting. A woman gets her postnatal bleeding, even for a moment in Ramadan, also nullifies the fasting. Same thing, childbirth. Even if it is the beginning of childbirth, the baby just started to come out, not finished from giving birth, also nullifies the fasting. And insanity, yani becoming crazy, even for just a moment. The only difference in these 5 is that insanity, you don't have to make up for it. You don't have to go back. And we will mention this, inshallah, in a later chapter, in a later lesson. Number 6 of the nullifiers of fasting is ighma, or bi-ighma'in, unconsciousness. Unconsciousness is referred to as مرض يصيب القلب ويسبب الفتور في البدن. So this is actually a disease that you can say attacks the heart, or is caused on the heart, and it causes someone to be frigid, the body to become frigid. So this unconsciousness nullifies fasting, and same as unconsciousness is intoxication, خبل في العقل مع طرب في البدن وخلل في النطق, which means there's an instability in the mind and a state of euphoria or a state of ecstasy in the body. There's a kind of feeling of happiness, and also confusion in speaking. So the person who is in a state of intoxication, he will be in a euphorical state, a state of ecstasy. And that is why sometimes when we say a person who is in a state of sukar, can be that because of dhikr, because of thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he becomes in a state of intoxication. But this is not what we are referring to, because there is no confusion in the mind, there is no instability in the mind actually, but actually a feeling of ecstasy. This is what we meant with this kind of sukar. But what we mean here is the state of intoxication. So these 2 states, the state of ighma, which is unconsciousness, same as being in a state of comatose. Also, the state of intoxication nullifies the fasting with 2 conditions. One of it is ta'adda bihima, which means did it on purpose, which means it is intentional. So, for example, a person took a pill or an injection, and this pill or injection caused the person to be intoxicated, or caused the person to be unconscious. So this is one of the conditions. The second condition is that this state of unconsciousness or intoxication lasts for the entire day. So if the person is intoxicated unintentionally, then it does not nullify the fast. Or let's say the person intended to fast before Fajr, and then after Fajr he became intoxicated, or just before Fajr he became intoxicated or became unconscious unintentionally, and then it continued for the whole day until Maghrib. We say his fasting is valid, and it does not nullify his fast because it is not intentional. The other condition is that it must last for the entire day. So for example, the person intentionally took something to cause intoxication or to cause unconsciousness before Fajr. And it only was just for a period, maybe until Zuhur, and then he start to wake or start to retrieve his sanity. He became well afterwards. Now we say that the fasting also is valid. The fast is valid because it did not last for the entire day. So it must be two things. It must be caused intentionally, and it must last for the entire day. These two conditions, which is unconsciousness and intoxication. Now these are the 7 things that are mentioned by the author. These 7 things mostly are things that you can't control, except for ridda, apostasy. The other 6 things is difficult to control. Like for example, haid, menstruation, postnatal bleeding, giving birth, becoming insane or insanity, becoming unconscious or becoming intoxicated. These are things that mostly, except for apostasy and except for intoxication, mostly are not intentional. So these are the things that are mentioned by the author, but there are other nullifiers, and these other nullifiers are the things that actually is that we have to abstain from, and it's not mentioned in this book, and inshallah we will mention in this lesson. And one of it is وصول عين إلى الجوف من منفذ مفتوح, a substance reaching a body cavity through an open orifice. When we say a substance, we mean something that has a body, whether it is whether this thing is a solid or a liquid. We are not referring to a gas, which comes to mind an issue which is the issue of cigarette. Right? Cigarette, some people might say is gas, we're smoking gas, but it's not true. The ulama almost unanimously, the ulama unanimously say that cigarette smoking nullifies the fast because actually there is a substance to cigarettes. So for example, how did they know that? Because if you bring a cigarette to a tissue, for example, you will find that there will be a discoloration in the tissue, and this is caused by the substance. So there is a substance coming out from the cigarette. So therefore we know that cigarette smoking nullifies the fast. This is unanimously the ulama say that it nullifies the fasting. On the other hand, using the inhaler nullifies the fast. Most ulama is with this opinion, especially in the madhab of Imam Shafi'i. Most ulama say that using the inhaler nullifies the fast because also same as cigarette smoking, there is a substance that come out from the inhaler. So if a person say, look, I have asthma and I have to break my fast, I have to use the inhaler, we say it is not haram, go ahead, use the inhaler, but it nullifies your fast and you have to make up for that day. Assuming that the person say, look, I cannot fast because every day I have to use the inhaler. I use it almost maybe every few hours I have to use, and I have to use it during the day in Ramadan. We say then in that situation you have chronic asthma, you have a chronic condition, and you are allowed to break your fast. You don't have to fast at all. If you can make up for it on another time, like in situations some people complain, in certain countries they fast for 20 hours. So he says, so that person say that if I have to fast for 20 hours, it's difficult for me to get by these 20 hours. without using the inhaler. Then we say, does there come a time that you don't have to fast for 20 hours and you can avoid using the inhaler? If that person says yes, then we say you have to make up for it. But if that person says no, there is no way that I can fast a day without using the inhaler, we say that's a chronic condition. You have to make up for it. You don't have to make up for it, but you have to pay fidya, which will come inshallah in a later chapter. The other thing is that when we say it reaches a body cavity, which means a place in the body with a cavity, this refers to, some of it is to the mind, to the brain, to the brain, refers to the stomach, refers to the intestines, the inner part of the ear. These are some of the body cavities that if a substance enters this, reaches this, the throat, reaches this area, then it nullifies the fast. So nowadays we have the issue of injection. So does it nullify the fast? We say that it does not nullify the fast if it's just taking out something. Like for example, you are taking blood to test. So this does not nullify the fast, because injecting it does not nullify the fast. Taking the blood does not nullify the fast. Now comes to the issue, if we put something inside the body. So if we insert something using the injection, then it nullifies the fast. But there is a difference in opinion in this subject. Some ulama say it nullifies the fast, no question. Some ulama say that it does not nullify the fast at all. The major two opinions that say it nullifies, that say the major two opinions in injection, they say that we look, what is the injection? One opinion says we look, what is the injection? Is it feeding? Is it nutrition? Then it nullifies the fast. If it is just medicine, it does not nullify the fast. The other opinion says we look, does it go to the vein or does it go to an open a body cavity? For example, go straight to the stomach, then it nullifies the fast. If it does not go like an injection just to the muscle, then it does not nullify the fast. So these are the two famous opinions nowadays. We also have the issue of PCR tests. Nowadays, while recording this, we are recently, we know that in some countries there is the corona issue, and during the corona issue they ask you to take the COVID test or the PCR test, and this test includes inserting something like a cotton bud in a stick to the nose. So it will go up until behind the nose. So this actually nullifies fasting. So if somebody says, look, but it is urgent, I have to do it. It is necessary and I can't avoid doing it. Then you ask, okay, so are you able to do it at night? The person say, no, I am not able to do it at night because the clinic does not open at night, for example, and it is necessary. Then we say, okay, go ahead, you do the test, but it nullifies your fast. You have to make up for it. It is not haram, it is not sinful, but you have to make up for that fast. That fast is not valid. Just the same as if a sick person have to invalidate his fast, nullify his fast. Okay, just never mind, you eat, but you have to make up for it. So the same thing here. Another thing is that because it is a body cavity, so if you put something, for example, inside the skin, but not inside the body cavity, it does not nullify the fasting. And the other thing is it must be through an open orifice, which means a part of your body that is already opened. So if it enters from the pores, it does not nullify the fasting. enters through the pores, same, like for example, you bathe, you shower, and then you feel rejuvenated. Why? Because there are water coming inside your body, but this water came inside from the pores. Open orifices include the ear. In our madhab Shafi'i, the ear is considered an open orifice. Contrary to madhab Imam Abu Hanifa. Madhab Imam Hanafi, they say that the ear is not an open orifice. The eye is an open orifice. In the madhab of Shafi'i, we say the eye is not an open orifice. The ear is an open orifice. Medically, there have been difference in opinion. In the past, most of the medical professionals, they say that they agree with the Hanafi madhab, which is the ear is not an open orifice, the eye is an open orifice. But many of the recent doctors, they say no, the eye is not an open orifice, the ear is an open orifice, agreeing to the opinion of madhab Shafi'i. If you use, so for example, if you use kuhl, something like an eyeliner, you use kuhl, you put something in your eyes, and then you can taste it in your throat. You can taste this substance that you put inside your eyes, or you use eye drops. If you use eye drops, and then you can taste the taste of the eye drop in your throat, then this is does not nullify. Your fast is still valid, because this eye drop did not enter from the eyes, but rather does not enter from an open orifice. If, however, you put ear drops in your ear, and then it entered inside your ear until your eardrums, or you can taste it in your throat, then that nullifies the fast according to Mazhab Shafi'i. Other issues with this also is phlegm. So, does it nullify the fast or not? Phlegm, that is this liquid that comes from the nose, or from the brain, or from the throat, from the lungs. This phlegm, does it nullify fasting or not? The question is, does it come out? When it came down to your throat, did it come out to the vocal exit of the harf or the letter kha? If it already reaches the letter kha, then you have to spit it out. If you intentionally swallow it after it reaching kha, then it nullifies the fasting and your fast becomes invalid. This is regarding phlegm. Sputum, however, spit, which is the water that you have inside your mouth, this does not nullify your fast if you swallow it, except if it mixes with something else. So, for example, you put in a string inside your mouth, and that string, there is color in the string, and that color mixes with your spit, and then you swallow the spit, your fast is nullified, becomes invalid. Or it already comes out, the sputum comes out to your lips, and then you swallow it back. It comes out to your lips, and then you swallow it back. Or same thing, you use a siwak, or you use a brush, toothbrush, or you use a string. You put the string inside, you wet the string inside your mouth, and then you pull it out, and then you put it back in again. Now this new sputum, even though it's your own sputum, but it already left your mouth, now putting it back will invalidate your fast. So these are the things that we know. However, just an extra explanation regarding putting the eye drop during the day of Ramadan is considered makruh. according to Madhab Shafi'i, even though it does not nullify the fast, according to Madhab Shafi'i, it is makruh. Same as hijama, which is blood cupping. So if you do the blood cupping, you put a cup in your bag and then it takes out the blood that is unhealthy blood, right, that comes out from your bag. Then this is allowed according to Madhab Shafi'i, but it is makruh to do it during the day. The other nullifier, another nullifier, which is number 9, is intercourse. So intercourse, sexual relation between, it is actually inserting the penis inside an opening, whether it is between a man and a woman, or between a man and a man even, and whether this opening is the gubal, the front part, the front pubic part, or the back part. So it is haram, especially when we say it is not with the wife, or is between a man and a man, which is considered liwat, and one of the horrible sins, liwat. This liwat, when shaitan, the devil, tells the person to do this, when the person actually does this, even shaitan runs away, because he fears the bala, the punishment that comes down on that person, that is guaranteed on that person. May Allah protect us from all these sins. And of course, we know that intercourse during the day in Ramadan while fasting will cause the person to, will cause expiation to become compulsory. And we have mentioned this, I think, in the previous lessons. The other nullifier of the fasting, number 10, is istimna, which is stimulating the exit of semen with semen with the hands. Semen with the hands. Actually, not necessarily with the hands, but with the touch. So whether it is using your own hands, using someone else's hands, like your wife's, or even a kiss. A person kiss his wife, and this kiss caused him to expend or for the money to come out, semen to come out. So now, for the semen to come out, so now this action nullified the fasting. Unlike if the person actually, the exit of semen is caused by looking at pictures, for example, looking at something, and then it caused for him to have desire, and then the semen come out, or by thinking. Although forcing looking at these kind of things is haram, if intentionally it is haram, same thing as thinking about it is considered haram. But it does not nullify, even though the person expels semen, but it's not considered haram because there is no touch. The action of kissing itself, if the person knows that it will cause the semen to come out, then it is haram, or suspects that semen will come out, is haram. If it does not cause, then it is just makruh. Istiga'ah, the other nullifier of fasting, is induced vomiting. Istiga'ah, induced vomiting, which means the person forced himself to vomit, or the person caused himself intentionally to vomit, whether it is by smelling something, whether it is most famously by putting your finger inside your throat. This induced vomiting is a nullifier of fasting, invalidates the fasting, If the vomit comes out by itself, then the fast is not invalid. It's still valid. The fast is still valid if the vomit came out by itself. But if the vomit was forced to come out, then it nullifies the fasting, and this includes even if it is allowed. Like for example, you swallowed poison, then you have to induce vomiting. You have to force vomit to come out to rescue yourself. So it is allowed, but you have to pay back. You have to make up the fasting. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, once he was given food from his servant. His servant gave him food, and after eating the food, he realized, and he went to the servant and asked the servant, "Where did you get this food from?" So the servant said, "I used to serve as a soothsayer. I used to work as a soothsayer or as a fortune teller." So this was a payment that was made to me for reading the fortune of someone. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr realized this fortune telling and soothsaying is haram. So he realized that this food actually is haram. So he induced himself to vomit. And this is from his piety, because he does not want for his blood and meat to mix with something that is haram. This is from his piety, and we all should be pious about what we eat and what we drink, all the things of all our income. We should try to avoid as much as possible what is haram, even though in this era it is difficult to know, but we should try to avoid what is haram. So these are the things that invalidates fasting. Inshallah, we have to abstain from doing these things, and inshallah we understand this lesson and we benefit from it, and inshallah we meet in the next lessons. Bismillah, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin.